All right, welcome back to the program. In case you're just joining us, it's time for our conversation. My guest is joining me right now, Ajuri Ngelale, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs. Welcome, Ajuri.
It's a privilege to be with you. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
We're managing okay.
Okay, let's get started. The Vice President had announced the launch of the Survival Fund, I think in July of 2020,
right.
During the MSMEs awards or so. I think that was the first time I heard him say something like that. But speak to Nigerians about what this Survival Fund, what does it mean? Because a lot of people have also been asking questions.
Right, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, we understand very acutely how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected the nation's economy. Obviously, we've seen a loss of about 60% of our revenue since January. We've seen, of course, the effect that it's had on our businesses, particularly micro and small and medium-scale enterprises. So for us, the Survival Fund is really a big part of the solution, but not the entire solution. It comprises of four major parts. On the one hand, you have payroll support, which is the first kind of leg that we've introduced as of September 21st. That launched on www.survivalfundapplication.com. You can go there. We phased it out in 3 phases. So from September 21 to September 25th, it was exclusively for private education, because we know that private schools, creches, nurseries, primary and secondary private institutions have really suffered during this time of lockdown. So we intervened with them first. Then the second phase was from Friday, September 25th to Monday, September 28th, which gave window for hospitality-related industry, MSMEs, hoteliers, food retail, etc. And then after the 28th, it opened up for all MSMEs across all sectors, and it has been so ever since. The payroll support is going to be open until October 15th. And basically what it involves is a set of payments to the employees of the affected MSMEs of between 30,000 and 50,000 naira per month. And it's going to be paid on the 26th, starting this month in October, 26th of October, 26th of November, and the 23rd of December, ahead of Christmas, paying the salaries of these MSMEs that have been impacted. And for us, what's really critical is that's kind of the first component. The other part of it is the president understands that there are groups in this country who have been disproportionately neglected when we talk about MSME interventions and interventions in general. Obviously, our women is one of those major groups. So aside from the fact that obviously our women are amongst our most gifted entrepreneurs, they're obviously the anchor points of our communities. And so the president has reserved 45% of the total 75 billion naira survival fund to businesses owned by women. And he also reserved a minimum, and that's a minimum, by the way, another minimum of 5% to businesses owned by physically disadvantaged persons, to make sure that those, those really important blocks of our society are catered for. And it's, I think, worth mentioning that the Survival Fund, all of the programs within the Survival Fund, 100% grants. None of them are loans. You will not have to repay any of this money. It is all loan-based. And so that's that for the payroll support. It's ongoing until the 15th. So I would ask any of our viewers to please register and benefit from that process. And then there's also the very critical component of the artisans. We are not just dealing with MSMEs, we're also dealing with individual Nigerians. And so we have set aside about almost 200 billion naira in grants for artisans across this country. That includes, by the way, plumbers, carpenters, hairdressers, bricklayers, you name it, I mean, so many different components of that. How it works is they're going to register with us through their association. So you'll have the Association of Carpenters, Association of Bricklayers, and all of these various associations. We're working through the associations. Each state is going to provide about 9,000 beneficiaries. Every state will have 9,000. All of the programs within the Survival Fund, even the payroll support, is equitably distributed amongst all states of the Federation. No state will have more beneficiaries than any other state, and that's the design of President Buhari. So that component of it, the direct intervention to artisans and all of the various components that I've mentioned, kicks off today, October 5th. It's going to be operationalized through the Bank of Industry, but we want all of our artisans, our bricklayers, our hairdressers, everybody to go through their associations within their states, the state chapters, to be able to go ahead and register and benefit from these operation grants of starting at 30,000 naira.
Okay, I needed you to give the whole background. Now let's go back again. You know, it's a 75 billion naira survival fund. 60 billion is the MSME survival fund.
Right.
Then 15 billion is the for the guaranteed
Offtake scheme. Yes.
So for those that have registered, you said there's a first phase which was from September 21 to September 25.
That's right, for private education. That's right.
So if you did not enroll at that point, it's gone, isn't it?
Well, no, that was actually okay. So the intention of the phase were two different things. One, we wanted to create an exclusivity window so that we wouldn't have so that they would get priority attention, because we realized that was a major sector where so many people were affected, where we really needed to make direct, immediate impact. So it was more of an exclusivity window, meaning that even as the exclusivity window had elapsed after that period, that as of today, they can still, if you're involved in private education, you can still go ahead and apply. And the second thing is we wanted to avoid some of the experience we experienced with Npower, whereby you announce it, it opens on the same time at the same time for everybody, and everybody rushes the website, tens of millions of people, and it crashes the website. We have had now an experience where we phased it over the 3, but even with that, we found that there were individuals who were not involved in private education, who were applying from different trades, different industry sectors, and all of that, which was unfortunate.
Is it that they did not understand?
Well, you can give some the benefit of the doubt, but I want to believe that with all the, we've been pretty much everywhere, we put it out on social media, it's been everywhere in terms of the phasing process. I want to believe that there are some that knew, but just wanted to take their chance because they didn't want to miss out and all of that. And that has created a situation where the website, the traffic on the website has now made it a little bit more difficult for those applying for the program. So you find that, you have to try 5 to 10 times and probably stay up late into the night to try and reduce the traffic to have an opportunity to successfully apply. And it wasn't arranged to be so originally.
Okay, it also applies to those that applied for the second phase, this hospitality.
That's right, hospitality.
So that means if you were not able to apply within that window,
that exclusivity window, you can still apply even till now, and then of course all other sectors as from September 28th. But I think what's really interesting too, Nancy, is the guaranteed offtake scheme, because here you have about 100,000 MSMEs in this country, where we've essentially, and this by the way, this survival fund is part and parcel of the 2.3 trillion Nigeria Economic Sustainability Plan. I know you know, but for our viewers, and what it's really all about is making sure that we prioritize indigenous Nigerian companies who employ only indigenous Nigerian labor, who will use only indigenous Nigerian raw materials for road construction across the board, whatever it is we're doing, constructing houses and the like within the program. So within the guaranteed offtake scheme, we're basically saying that because we have billions of naira moving into the effort at securing COVID-19 relief materials, we're talking soaps, hand sanitizers, face masks, and all of these various items, that why would we be importing these things from abroad, from foreign companies who are employing foreigners in their jurisdictions, when we have Nigerian MSMEs where we can source this material from? So what the guaranteed offtake scheme does is, in effect, it makes it a 100% exclusive to Nigerian MSMEs who are manufacturing, producing soaps and all of these other items. We're going to come in for 100,000 MSMEs producing these materials, do a bulk purchase of the materials from their MSMEs to support the continued existence of 300,000 jobs within those 100,000 MSMEs. And I think that's a strategic initiative that will carry us forward into the post-COVID-19 era.
The government, and you said earlier on that 45% of the fund is meant for women.
Yeah, absolutely dedicated to women.
45% of the 75 billion?
That's correct, yes. That's minimum, yeah. And then 5% for businesses owned by physically disadvantaged persons.
So does that mean that all those businesses that have applied,
right,
45% of them would be women, or 45% of those going to be
selected? Yes. So
I really want to know how you, or when I mean you,
right.
When I mean the government arrived at it. Are you saying 45% of the total funds, we should be like about over 30 billion or so, will it be earmarked to women? Or from the number of applicants you've gotten, 45% of those applicants should be women, that if the number of women that applied are more.
Right, good. So
because sometimes you see that women-owned businesses don't even apply for those kinds of things. Men get us more.
There's the knee-jerk kind of, well, there's the conventional thinking that says, if you don't know somebody in government, why am I wasting my time? And all of that. And we all know that in this country, with a patriarchal system that we've had, is disproportionately men who have benefited from influence-related contracting within the government, which is unfortunate, which we're trying to change by automating these processes, whether it's Empower, whether it's Survival Fund, whether it's the Government Enterprise Empowerment Program with trader money, and all of that. So now, in view of what you've asked, essentially, so we have once we get to the 15th of October, which is the cutoff, you're now going to have a clear window into everybody who applied and all of that. Out of all of the applicants, we're going to basically say 45% of the beneficiaries will be women-owned businesses. And of course, all of them will be taken on their merits. It's not just because they're women. It's going to be because, everything has been verified and it checks out that indeed they require the assistance. But 45% will certainly be for women-owned businesses and 5% for physically disadvantaged persons-owned businesses.
Okay. How would you differentiate for those with special needs?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it there on the portal?
Well,
do you understand what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, the thing about it is, the beauty of the program is that because it's 100% grant-based and there are no loans involved, and because everything is digital, these are not cash handouts. Everything is digitized in such a way that we're working through their BVNs to pay directly into their bank accounts. There's a verification process. So, of course, we understand the threat of having individuals who do not even own an MSME, for example, or run an MSME, trying to apply and pretend as if that we know that can happen. So for us, we've ensured that, for example, if you want payroll support, one of the elements of what you have to produce is a very clear document, which if you have a BVN, if you have a bank account, and if you are if you're paying staff, then what we've said is, you just telling us that you're paying cash to your staff is not going to be good enough, because anybody can say that. Anybody can pay cash to anybody today to benefit from something tomorrow. So what we've said is, companies who have paid their staff, particularly through a bank account, you'll be able to produce documentation that proves that for this amount of time you've been paying this individual this amount of money, a fixed amount, and it's all documented. So it makes it very, very straightforward. Then on the other side, I think a major part of this that is not as celebrated perhaps is the formalization effort. Within the administration right now, there's an active effort to try and move as many Nigerian informal MSMEs in the country into the formal economy. So even when we're doing, even as we're still doing trader money, farmer money, market money, and all of these other programs, even Empower, what we've always said is that the beneficiaries must go and get a BVN, register a bank account so that we can pay them. And so what we're doing with this now is we've said we are going to pay for 250,000 informal MSMEs all across this country to have their MSMEs formalized. So we're going to pay for them to go to the Corporate Affairs Commission, register their business name, go through the entire process to move into the formal economic structure, so that they can benefit from whether it's grants today or low interest loans tomorrow. They're going to be in the system. So for 250,000, that maybe because they didn't have money before, or maybe because before the new COMA was passed they couldn't afford an attorney or a lawyer and all of that, we're going to walk them by the hand through the registration process so that 250,000 can move in.
How are you going to get those 250,000 people?
It's going to be through the same survival fund application process. So that's why it's segmented. So you have the payroll support, then you have the guaranteed offtake scheme, then you have the formalization support scheme, which is what I'm referring to now with the 250,000 in CAC, and then you have the operations grants, which are essentially dedicated to MSMEs and of course the individuals that I've mentioned, artisans, bricklayers, carpenters, and all of them through their associations. So those are really the four major kind of component parts of the survival fund.
So let's go to the Artisans Grant, which is 200 billion.
Yes, that's the money that we've put in place for them.
That's for the carpenters, those
carpenters, bricklayers, hairdressers, plumbers, you name it. I mean,
they must be in an association.
They must belong to an association, and that's critical.
But the question is, not many Nigerians belong to those associations.
Well, this is the thing.
I understand what the government wants
Yeah.
to do in terms of formalization and knowing those people you are giving it to.
Well, absolutely, that's very critical.
I understand
because
that.
Nancy, the challenge we have is we have to ring fence these things. Otherwise, people are going to take undue advantage, and the people who really need it, who are employing the mothers and fathers of families and heads of household, they're employing heads of household, sending children to school and feeding and all of that. These people are going to be left out, and somebody who is, on Twitter from their house has never tried to even attempt to operate an MSME is going to be taking funding that would have gone to that head of household. We want to avoid that, and the way that we do that is to ensure that you're belonging to, you're registered with an association. So for example, if you're registered with an association, you're going to have a number, an ID number based on that relationship. It's on the basis of that association can now present to you. Remember, 9,000 per state, and we want to make sure that every single person that's benefiting is a legitimate bricklayer, carpenter, hairdresser, plumber, whatever they are. And so in safeguarding the process, you're right that there are many who are not linked to associations, but this is why it's a great opportunity for us to clearly communicate to our people that it is in your interest to get involved in the unions of your profession or of your industry. If you look at the anchor borrower scheme, a lot of the success that came from that was because the millions of farmers that benefited from low interest credit facilities were not briefcase farmers. These are not people who just just decided to fill a form at central bank and collect money. These are people that we went through unions to ensure that these people are registered farmers, that you can go and locate them where they are, and that you can also bring them into a digital database where you can verify that yes, this person is here, this is what they're cultivating, this is how much they're cultivating. We've done all of that through these kinds of automated formalization processes, which really ring fence it from the kinds of corrupt activities that would disadvantage Nigerians who genuinely need these supports.
So your government is encouraging Nigerians to go to belong to
get involved in your associations. If you're so, for example, we're not just dealing with artisans and bricklayers and plumbers. We have a separate intervention of 10 billion for transport workers dedicated. So within the survival fund, which I'm so happy I didn't forget to mention this. You have 10 billion for transport workers. So if you're a member, for example, of the National Union of Road Transport Workers, NURTW, if you're a part of the KK Operators Association of Nigeria, Okada Operators Association of Nigeria, then you're going to be in position to also benefit from the operations grants of about 35,000 naira and all of that. You don't even have to be a driver. You can be a bus conductor. You can be a mechanic. If you're in the Mechanics Association of Nigeria, all of that is going to be in place. What we're just encouraging our people is, no matter what your profession is, no matter what your industry is, make it a priority moving forward to join these associations. Not even if the dues or the fees, membership fees, maybe 500 naira here, 1,000 naira there, it is worth it in the end, because these are the organizations that we're working through to ensure that the beneficiaries are real, active, verifiable members of these industries.
Now the politicization of those associations are also should call for question, because some of these associations have not really, been for the interest of their members. You understand what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. We're all in this.
There are a lot of associations.
Absolutely.
I don't need to call them by name.
Right,
Some
right.
have gone political in terms of, you understand what I mean? So how do you also streamline that?
Well, for us, one of the very important factors involved in not just the composition of the plan and the design of the plan, but now in the implementation of the plan, is that His Excellency the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, was very diligent about making sure that every state governor and every state government and every union and every across political parties, I'm talking of the state governments, for example, were actively involved in this plan, particularly where it involved state and local government kind of participation. And that's important because we have seen really wonderful kind of partnership as it relates to the implementation of the economic sustainability plan, whether it's the agricultural component or whether it's the MSME interventions that we're now rolling out. We have seen that. If you look at the Special Public Works Program, where we're recruiting 1,000 young people across every local government area of the Federation, again, the equitable distribution of spread of jobs and benefits is, whether it's a PDP state, or an APC state or an APCA state, everybody's keying in because they understand that it's in their own, even if it's in their own self-interest, to make sure that their people are being employed en masse wherever possible. So for us, in terms of the labor unions and maybe some of the political power play that we've seen historically from them, that really has been put to sleep by the fact that when you have an automated process, a process that goes directly to the beneficiaries, not to the OGA of some union, for him to decide how it's going to be spread. No, this is going directly into the accounts of people, but even though it's through the associations, we're quite convinced and quite, optimistic that all of this is going to align, whether somebody is aligned to this political interest or the other, because at the end of the day, their membership are comprised of human beings who are Nigerians who need to benefit from these interventions.
What office is coordinating this? Is it what office? Because, for example, like the NPower,
yes, right.
What office is coordinating
Very
this?
good. So this is directly under the purview of His Excellency, the Vice President, through a steering committee that is made up not just of, by the way, it's not just public sector run. We've involved, and this is another design again of the Vice President for the sake of transparency and also core competence as well. We've brought on captains of industry, so you have the chairman of First Bank, Ms. Sawoshika, for example, who is on the committee, and many other captains of industry, in addition to the essay to the President on MSMEs is the secretary of the steering committee handling that. So you have a kind of a conglomeration of private sector and public sector to make sure that these things are being done in an apolitical fashion, and also in a transparent fashion that would be incorruptible. And that's the same thing, by the way, if you look at the Special Public Works Program, also part of the Economic Sustainability Plan, is making sure that the state selection committees who are involved in the recruitment, if you look at the composition of those committees, you're not going to be seeing senators and different types of people like that. You're going to be seeing state chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria, state chairman of the Islamic authorities in the various states, of course NGO, state chairman, union. You're going to see so many different actors to ensure that everything is done in an apolitical fashion, because at the end of the day, Mr. President has said, bottom line, that he's not the president of APC or PDP, he's the president of Nigeria, and all Nigerians must benefit accordingly.
So is it that committee now that will be in charge of selection of those applicants?
That's correct. So the state selection committee.
The Minister of State for Industries,
right,
is the chairman Katugumi?
Yes, thank you very much for mentioning that. I mentioned the steering committee. Yes. Of course, very important that the Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment and Industry are very much, obviously, part and parcel of that committee. The Minister of State, Ms. Katugumi, she's kind of involved in the oversight of the program as well. So there are multiple layers of oversight and multiple legs in terms of the composition of the committee to ensure that there are so many eyes. You know, the President is a big believer that sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. When you have insight, when you have transparency, accountability tends to follow, because when things are open for everybody to see, people aren't going to be putting their hands in the wrong places, and that's what we've done with this program.
You know what I'm asking? So that if there's an issue for Nigerians in terms of application, who do they turn to?
Right.
Do you understand which office? Because they can't get a vice president, for example.
Right.
That's why I'm asking.
It's a very relevant question. Yeah. Aside from the steering committee and the Ministry of Trade and Investment, many of the operation support, the grant supports, for example, will be coming through the Bank of Industry. But the beauty of the automation and the registration process is that anybody who is going through the process, who successfully applies and all of that, will have a very clear set of directions as to what to do next and all of that to take advantage of the opportunity that they've been given.
What's the government looking at in terms of the totality of applicants, the totality of jobs that will be created from this? Because looking at this, the survival fund, perhaps to create close to 300,000 jobs, artisans and all of that, if you take a look at micro businesses in Nigeria, 41.5 million of them, according to the last data from NBS, 41,500,000 micro businesses. So if you take a look at even what the government is doing now, it's still
just a fraction, right?
A very minimal fraction, not up to 5% of even. So how do you think that this would definitely make the impact? Because even if these applicants get it, majority of Nigerians will still be impoverished.
No, thank you very much. That's a fantastic point. You know, look, the reality of it is the 75 billion naira survival fund is certainly not going to solve all the problems. And that's why it's part of an economic stimulus package that is directed at a particular aim, which is to cushion during COVID-19. Now, with that, that's why it's grant-based. They're not loans. It's just money we're giving. Now, the way that we're moving forward and the way that we have been operating is, you recall, you know even better than me, Nancy, by dealing with these issues over the years, is historically we've always had the challenge of access to liquidity for our MSMEs. They cannot go into a deposit money bank and go and take a loan from GT Bank or somebody else at 24%. So what you now have, and that's even if they were even able to access the loan in the first place, not to speak of, if they can't. So what this administration has done very systematically, three major interventions. One is we took off the Development Bank of Nigeria with a $1.3 billion seed fund that has allowed them to so far, they've handed out over 100 billion naira in low interest credit facilities to over 100,000 MSMEs. The Bank of Industry has been capitalized, all of this at a time when our resources have been severely depressed by the consistently low oil revenues in the international market. The Bank of Industry capitalized to the tune of 400 billion over the last few years, and they have been able to supply over 400,000 MSMEs with low interest credit facilities, and that does not include the millions of farmers who have benefited from the low interest credit facilities from the Anchor Borrowers program, and of course about 4 million petty traders who were left in the wilderness before, who during this administration have benefited from zero interest facilities, zero interest loans under the Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program. So what we are saying is, it is true that we have not been able to solve all of the problems in a day, particularly at a time of low revenues. But we have been able to directly touch about over 10 million MSMEs over the last 4 years. And we're saying out of the 40, that is a really, really, really promising move in the right direction in terms of progress to try and get to a point where we can cover all 40 million who require interventions. And so we're going to continue to aggressively ensure that low interest credit facilities are made available in as much as we possibly can in the years ahead. But we just want to remind our people that before 2015, none of these things that we're talking about were even attempted, let alone implemented. So keep faith with us, be patient with us. We know it's not easy, but please just be patient with us. We're only starting. We're going to expand this, and we're going to grow this, and we're going to ensure that as many Nigerians as humanly possible that can benefit from these programs will benefit. And the last point I want to make on that is, I think one of the forgotten measures is the finance bill that Mr. President signed in earlier this year, which also, it's not just about the capital you can give to a business, it's also about creating the enabling environment. So the President, through the finance bill signed into law earlier this year, essentially exempted all MSMEs in this country generating less than 25 million naira a year in profit from paying company income tax, 0%. And then also went further to reduce the company income tax obligation of every MSME in this country generating a profit between 25 million naira and 100 million naira in profit, from 30% down to 20%, and gave a total exemption to all MSMEs and large industries in this country who are involved in the agricultural production sector. If you're involved in agricultural production at all, you have an 8-year exemption from paying company income tax no matter how much profit you generate. I think those are the kinds of enabling policies, in addition to the accessibility to liquidity, that ultimately is going to give new life to our MSMEs, because the President knows that our MSMEs are the future of the Nigerian economy, not oil and gas sharing.
Okay. This survival fund, the period is like a salary support to MSMEs. How long is it going to take? How long will these grants pay
Absolutely.
salaries?
So
will it be forever?
No. Unfortunately, it will not be forever. We would love to give grant forever, but of course, we have to invest in social investment programs, roads, bridges, power plants, dams, airports, seaports, and the like. So now, the way this is structured is it's structured for 3 months. So the payroll support is going to pay the salaries 30,000 to 50,000 naira per employee through the 500,000 MSMEs over the course of 3 months. So I said October 26th is the first payment, November 26th second payment, and December 23rd is the third and final payment. And then we'll see from there, based on how that goes and what the needs are in December, because nobody knows how this thing is exactly going to play out. If we need to make adjustments and extend a program, that is always going to be on the table. But we are hoping that we would have gotten to a point of relative normalization so that our people can comfortably move into the post-COVID-19 era.
Yes, I needed to mention that.
Very important.
To also break down this MSME survival fund, I think for the benefit of our viewers, you must have gotten one or two things from this interview right there. I had to break it down.
Break it down, absolutely.
Yes,
Very important.
Take this to break it down.
Please be persistent. Don't give up. If you go to the website, www.survivalfundapplication.com, you may experience one or two glitches. You may experience even more than one or two. I appeal to you, persist, endure, try and make sure you get that application successfully submitted no matter how many times you face issues as a result of the high traffic. Just continue to persist until it's successful. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Obviously that is unintended. The traffic is much, but please bear with us.
Okay, now let's get comments from our social media handles. Ebubedike Somje at Big Samuel on Twitter is saying, association these days are not after the interest of the masses, but after making illicit money from frustrated artisans. Please, CAC registration and BVN should be enough. That's his comment. But you also understand, not all Nigerians will be in associations.
Well, this is the thing. To my brother, I understand his point. But the problem with the logic there is that, let's say BVN and bank account number is enough, right? If that is enough, how will government know at all? How will they have any understanding or evidence or insight into whether or not you're actually a bricklayer? Because I can have a BVN and a bank account, and I can be sitting at home all day long, not doing anything, or not even attempting to do anything, and still go through the process with my BVN and bank account number and claim to be a bricklayer or this or that. So there has to be a means of verification. We understand the inconvenience. We understand the misgivings about, the unions and all of that. But at the end of the day, if you are paying your dues to a union and there's an opportunity that is being provided, not by the union, but by government through the union, and it's being paid directly into your account, you don't have to worry about the union politics of whether some oga in the union, the chairman, is going to take money and then give you the scraps. It's going directly to you, so he can't access your money. So that should be understood.
Okay. Ebere Ifendo is saying, Nancy, please do find out the reason for the trademark portal of the Trade Invest Nigeria not working for over a month. That should be for the Ministry of Trade and Industry, the trademark portal. What is happening? The Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment should come up with an explanation, and not just an explanation, to make sure that it is working.
Absolutely.
Because we can't be saying all of this. People need to trademark their businesses. It's part of formalization. So I've called you guys out. Do the right thing. Okay, just before we go, Ajuri, can you encapsulate for me what the president, I know I read his speech, the Independence Day speech and all of that, but what keeps the president awake? Is he really awake with the sufferings of Nigerians? Does the president really sleep? I'm not saying he will not sleep. That many Nigerians are suffering, impoverished, macroeconomy not good, inflation going up. If you go to the market these days, you buy something, you'll be looking at what you bought, and the money is finished. Yeah, sure. In a few seconds.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. This is what the president thinks about. He's a very reflective man. He's not somebody who's sitting down on Twitter and thinking of how to pass time. I mean, he is a very reflective man, and he's always focused on what can I do to make the lives of the poor masses, those people who really elected me, because that's really his constituency, the poor and middle-income masses of this country, who he has always defended throughout his career in terms of ensuring social justice and equity. With this now, everything that the president is doing is within the context of a global phenomenon that is not limited to Nigeria. We know what COVID-19 has done to economies around the world. Even in bastions of prosperity, like the United States of America, you're seeing millions of permanent job losses. You're seeing people evicted from their homes, being made homeless with no alternative. This is in the US. How much more in the developing economies, where South Africa has seen a contraction of their GDP by 40%. We have contracted by 6%. We're expecting to go back into positive growth by the first quarter of next year. So I think the point is, things are bad, things are not easy, but we are doing everything we can within the limited resources of the nation. That we have lost 60% of our revenue since January, and within that we're still trying to make unprecedented outreaches to our people where they are with their MSMEs as well as individuals, and we're just asking our people to please be patient with us. Okay, I think that's the much we can take. Ajuri, thank you for coming. Always a privilege, Nancy. Thank you for having me. All right, I've been speaking with Ajuri Ngelale, who is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs. We've been looking at the MSME Survival Fund. I hope you've gotten so much clarity concerning this fund. So I'll see you all tomorrow. Continue to protect yourself. COVID-19 is still out there. Please protect yourself. See you all tomorrow. Thank you for watching our video. Please hit the subscribe button below, turn on post notification to follow all our updates.